Hi, in this today's video, we are going to discuss about RMI in reference to the EJB part. As we all know, enterprise Java beans is something essentially important for any of the enterprise applications now and then. So when we talk about RMI, which is called remote method invocation, which is called RMI stands for. So using RMI in reference to the EJB is what are we learning in today's session. Using RMI with EJB is what are we learning now. So when we talk about this remote method invocation, which is a distributed application, usually these Java have different applications like enterprise applications, something like EJB and all, everything will be there. At the same time, remote applications, something like RMI, Corva, all these things comes under distributed applications. Servlets, JSPs and all, everything comes under client server applications as well. So different type of applications will be there in the field of Java. So when we talk about RMI in reference to the EJB part itself is concerned, wherein creating this remote method invocation clients for a traditional RMI service of any EJB server is essentially important. When we're trying to understand about the kind of servers which we're handling, about the kind of calls and all that, so wherein we need to understand the relationship basically between the kind of WebLogic enterprise RMAs and as well as IAOPs and EJBs, all that. In context to this, one, we need to understand about the different structures where we need to know about the kind of architecture which is something involved in EJBs and as well as clients of EJBs, all that stuff. In today's video, I'm going to explain in a diagrammatical representation so that you guys can understand it well in advance. So here, when we are talking about this, first of all, we need to understand about three different things. One is about the clients, second is about the RMA server, third is about the EJB server, right? So these are the three different things we need to. So first of all, clients. This is what generally the clients were. This is what we call it as clients. Right. So let me. Right. So this is what generally we call it as clients were. In these clients, we have two different things. One is RMI client and second is EJB client. One is RMI client. Okay. RMI client. One is RMI client here. We were writing on RMI client. It was. And once RMI client, the second was EJB client. I am creating one more called EJB client. EJB client, right? So these are the two different clients we have. Now we have one more server which is called RMI server here as separate, which is called RMI server. RMI server we have, right? So RMI server is having here. At the same time, we have one more server which is called EJB server in this. So there was an EJB server which is as separate, right? As we can see here, EJB server. Right, so EJB server as separate. Now, when we are trying to understand this part itself is concerned now, wherein in this EJB server, there will be different containers are available, like EJB home interfaces, EJB remote interfaces, all that. Hence, we required two more interfaces, which is called EJB interface and as well as EJB remote interface. One is EJB interface here. EJB interface here. Yeah. So here I can say like EJB home interface. EJB home interfaces we have here. Just give me a minute. I think it was struck. EJB home interface. EJB home interface was here itself. In this here itself, we have EJB home interface. Next, after EJB home interface, the next is EJB remote interface we have. EJB remote interface here. EJB remote interface, right? So EJB home interface followed by EJB remote interfaces were there, wherein these two has to be connected with enterprise Java beans, which is one more this thing, wherein we have to create, which is called EJB, right? I can say it's called EJB here. Enterprise Java beans is what generally we talk about. Now we need to have a connect over these things, which is essentially important when we are working on, so that we can connect this to the remote server, right? So RMA servers here. This is where it was. At the same time, we can also even connect with the EJB home interfaces, whatever we have created so far, so that we can connect with the EJB interfaces. We can connect with, followed by this. Yeah. So we can create so we can create one EJB home interfaces here itself, where whatever is needed. Yeah, we can create one EJB home interface here. This is one thing. At the same time, we can I'm going to create one more here, which is called EJB. EJB I'm creating, right? So next, we need to connect this with RMA server. This is one thing which normally we do. At the same time, we need to this called EJB. Where you will be using to connect with it. Next, here we need to write, let us write this JNDA narrows or costings, all that here. JNDA, which is stands for Java naming directory interfaces and all. Narrowing or casting, which is called it was, right? So this is what it was here. Now, again, we can connect this RMA clients and all everything to EJB home interface and EJB remote interface as well. So EJB home interface, we can connect with. So now, if you are to connect here, right? So wherein we need to connect all these things, which are essentially required over there. Now here we can connect. Yeah. Now we can connect all these over here. Right. So wherein we are connecting over these, we see which is essentially required. So this is where we have to connect with. At the same time, this EJB home interfaces and all everything will be connecting to EJB, which is called Enterprise Java Beans, as I mentioned you, and I told you that. So this is where generally, and whatever the containers are we talking about, so this is where generally we call it as EJB container. We understood. We try to understand this. This is called EJB container. So wherein I'm just creating an EJB container here. right? So EJB container is what I'm creating here. This is an EJB server, wherein we can connect this clients and all everything to EJB remote interface as well as separate. If you want us, we can create where all these J&DE narrowings and all everything will be involved in it. So Java naming direct interfaces, narrowings and all everything will also be involved here as separate. So this is how generally an architecture wherein we need to understand using RMIs, EJB, all that. So wherein we'll be having clients as separate. At the same time, we have a remote method invocation server as separate, followed by this EJB servers, which will be as separate. So this is how generally these three, this is an architecture which majorly trying to understand about how RMAs and as well as EJB is being used. When we're trying to understand about EJB server, which is basically a client of an EJB, which must first contain the kind of obtains the kind of object interface for EJB servers, the kind of tasks of remote method invocation clients, wherein obtaining references to a remote object. At the same time, these EJB servers will also treated as a remote object, wherein to obtain object interfaces, be a WebLogic enterprise clients of EJBs, which are being used for Java naming directory interfaces and all, wherein this J&DE call returns interfaces to an objects that can be implemented for EJB server home interfaces, all that. Along with this, we need to know about the clients that can be used for home interface of EJB servers to look up with existing EJB instances and creating new ones. When we talk about client callbacks from EJBs, wherein this WebLogic Enterprises particularly uses features for RMI, so that we can use it for the clients and callbacks from EJB servers, etc., where these clients cannot advertise that EJB implementation by understanding the advertises of RMI implementation, so that clients wants to call back from any of the EJB instances, wherein it should create an RMI object and pass the interfaces to the EJB instances here. Along with this, one should know about the kind of instances that can be invoking the client callbacks using its RMI interfaces, all that. When we talk about the clients of EJBs and BA WebLogic, where it notices the definitions of all the clients, where EJBs and RMIs and as well as IAMOPs and all everything will be involved in it. At the same time, the client of EJBs can also talk to the BA WebLogic Enterprise RMI servers as well. At the same time, when we're talking about type of narrowings and all everything, the kind of programs that are intended to be interoperable with all the component EJB container implementations, we must use the kind of method, something like JavaX, RMIs, or portable remote objects.narrows to perform type narrowing of the client-side representations of the home and remote interfaces. Once an object reference is obtained, the client must narrow to the application appropriate type, wherein by creating a generic RMI client, wherein could use the cast operation instead of portable remote objects narrows, all that. We always recommend at the same time use the portable remote object byte narrow to ensure interoperability with compliant EJB container implementations, etc., all that. So this is all about RMI in reference to the EJB part. So if you have any queries in regard to that, please reach out to the contact details, which will be posted in below to this video. Thank you.